Congress has given the Obama administration until Thursday to decide whether it will label ISIS attacks on Middle Eastern Christians genocide. The bishop of the Coptic Orthodox Church is among religious leaders who came to Washington this week to implore the administration to take note of a nearly 300-page report outlining how ISIS is targeting Christians. Shannon Bream talked with him about his efforts.
Bishop, thank you so much for making time for us. In looking through this report, no one can read this and not be stunned by the atrocities. This is something you've been witnessing for a long period of time.
It is, and I'm so glad that it's come to the forefront. I'm very appreciative of everyone who's put in such an incredible effort. For us, it's a report, it's a book, it's bound, but actually it's the lives of people. People are suffering this on a daily basis, and the more it's known, the more that it's demonstrated and seen for what it really is, the more that we can help them.
The stories include kidnappings, people witnessing women being sold into sex slavery, torture. You know that there are many churches and religious sites completely destroyed at the hands of ISIS. What do you think it's going to take for people to get that these are real lives, these are stories of human beings?
As a clergyman, of course, the first thing that comes to me is that there is an idea of sanctity of life. There is a holiness of every life. Whether it's my life or yours, or those who are suffering, or even those who are causing the suffering. And so there's an element of humanity that must be addressed. We're living here in relative comfort, but there are people who are still struggling and still suffering. And within the concept of our own overall humanity, we really need to feel that pain.
Do you have concern that we will see these reports? You mentioned the one on the cover of this report dealing with the 21 men who were kidnapped and executed in a very theatrical manner on a beach simply because of their faith and their unwillingness to renounce Jesus Christ. Do you worry that the world will become numb to these kinds of images?
Well, when the 21 Copts were, as you say, paraded and killed in this way, I think there was a huge shock in the world. It was something we'd never seen before, and it had a significant impact. What I think saddened me a little bit was about a month later, when something very similar happened to Ethiopian Eritrean Christians. There was much less reaction. It seemed that we had almost become desensitized very quickly, and so, as you say, we do become desensitized. The more we hear about statistics and numbers of people who die and who are abducted, the more it becomes quantified. So if you have fewer deaths than yesterday, then it's a better day. And we really need to realize that this suffering is not quantifiable in numbers, but in huge communities that are actually being pushed out of the region and almost non-existent now.
I know you have some concerns that if certain groups who are suffering at the hands of ISIS are recognized as genocide victims, but others, including Christians, are not, it could have a devastating impact there.
Absolutely. As much as we want the genocide to be recognized, what we need to realize is on the ground, the perpetrators of these crimes are going to read our actions. And what they will read from a partial recognition is that those who are recognized are supported and protected by the international community, while the others are not. And the ramifications will not just be in Iraq and Syria, it will be everywhere there is religious persecution, especially on Christians. They will become, I fear, a more legitimate and more significant target. And so we will actually be playing into that scenario where we make them more vulnerable. And I hope that decision makers, policy makers, will bear this in mind.
That was Shannon Bream reporting. The genocide label would come with formal and moral obligations under international law to take action and punish the perpetrators, potentially through an investigation by the International Criminal Court for possible war crimes prosecution.